Oh, what's up, guys? I'm Mike,
Blyat, I'm Josh.
And I'm Tom.
and we are the Druzhinacast. We did it. We pulled it off.
We did it for the first time.
Um, and this is our second episode, officially. Last week, if you joined us, you'll remember that we did a pretty in-depth discussion on our experience and my personal armory of Larp weapons, um, different makers and stuff, different things we like, different things we want. Honestly, since last week, we've gotten a little more info that we might touch on later in the episode if we have time. But our main focus today is going to be firearms. Kind of like last episode, I want to go over some questions we got during the week. And I really want to encourage people to kind of send in stuff during the week on the posts that we make. I know we didn't do a lot of that this week, mostly due to real world stuff going on that I wanted to give space for on social media. Um, but like last week, we only really got one thing. It was from my buddy Luke, who is a real life friend. He doesn't LARP or anything. I think the nerdiest thing I've done with him really is that we play Magic the Gathering together. Um, but he sent me a text and he was saying that he really wanted to hear more about stuff that goes on besides combat at LARPs. Um, while I don't think we have the time to focus on that a lot for this episode, I do want to say that we are planning on doing an episode in the future where we do talk a lot of non-combat stuff going on. We're planning on having friends on at some point that actually were the whole reason that we even got to do quests when we went to Beacoline, and we're going to talk about our discussions or our experiences with non-combat stuff and things we did role playing. Thank you. She's a demon. We are doing firearms today, as we previewed last week, and Tom is the big expert so far on LARP firearms, between tech and developments and different things. So I'm going to be letting Tom take the lead on a lot of this stuff. So go ahead, Tom. Tell us all about it.
How's it going, guys? So, my I don't remember when we even first started talking about it. I think it was when we went to Beacoline and we saw people had, some people had like actual like cap like flintlock guns. Some people had not cap flintlock guns, and I think were they putting like firecrackers in the barrel to fire them off?
I don't know if they were legit lighting fireworks and putting them in there. I don't know if they just had the little red caps like you
Yeah,
would put in one of the
but they
little
were
gas station revolvers.
running around town, and it was mostly like an aesthetic thing. There's a lot of pirates and stuff at Beacoline,
Mhm.
but it has nothing to do with the actual combat or anything like that. So we're like, sweet, and like we kind of wanted it for like walking around in town, aesthetic, just to have like a flintlock or something. And it got me thinking, because I always kind of wondered why you don't really see it that much, other than the obvious, you get shot in the eye, and that sucks. But I mean, we've already had like archery. I mean, I've seen people make like crossbows that shoot little bolts that have like the foam heads and stuff. We've kind of like talked about that. And even at Beacoline, they have like siege weapons. So they'll have siege weapons that shoot like a big ballista bolt, or they actually have cannons that fire like a big. It's like an inflated. I think it's like an inflated, like
I
kids
picked one up
ball.
one time, and it's like it's hollow. Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah,
it's like I don't know. There's like
it's
some
like a baby ball.
what's that sport where they like blast the ball against the wall?
High lie,
That sounds like
racquetball.
something. Racquetball. It feels and
It
looks
felt
like a
like a
little red
racquetball
racquetball.
because those are hard. Those are like
Really?
real
I've never
rubbery.
played, so I don't know. But that's what I immediately thought when I picked one up. I mean, those things weren't like soft or nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
Um, they didn't hurt. I got shot right in
yeah.
the chest with one, and I was fine. But
Yeah.
So, anyways, that got me to thinking about stuff, and I think I did some searching, and I actually found uh, a website and a creator, which I'm gonna go more in depth about, uh, that actually makes what is essentially like a Nerf blaster that fires their yellow rival ammo, which is kind of like, I have them around somewhere. I probably should have grabbed one. Um, but between the dart and the ball, it's the ball. And I think I was searching on like Nerf handmade or homemade things. I saw it. I was like, holy crap! Like someone's actually developing this. So the person that I'm talking about, just to get on with it is his name's Justin Andrews. He actually has a website, and he has coined, I guess you could call it like the brand of what he's trying to make. And if my pronunciation is wrong, but I think it's Larp Cubis. So it's basically, and we'll go over to photos in a minute. Maybe I'm kind of jumping the gun on that, but anyway, so I saw that stuff. I started to get inspiration on it. I think I actually messaged him a while ago and got invited to like a secret Larp firearms group on Facebook. And there's a bunch of people now that I'm aware of all across the world that are trying to develop these things. And it's really cool to see that inside stuff. And I tried to like develop one of my own and failed. And then finally it's getting to the point now where it almost feels like it's about to be ready to where we're actually about to have a real Larp firearm, and it's pretty exciting.
We could also mention that this all kind of started with our discovery of, I mean, beyond like seeing the pirates shoot their cat pistols in the air at night at Beakeline, we did get really into studying the band guns that they use at like
That's right.
Swordcraft.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So a part
that also seemed like the most realistic path because that Malius LARP that's run by some of the same people that do Damarung on the East Coast, they use band guns as well.
Yeah,
so for a while, I just assumed that like, oh, that's going to be the only way. But as soon as I saw the videos of the Nerf rival guns, I was like, well, that would be cool if we could get that.
Yeah. I mean, the initial attraction to band guns is one, the mechanism is super simple. I mean, you get a piece of wood and make the trigger and everything else like that. But the even bigger thing that I think discouraged me, and discouraged us, and even the people that are with us in the plannings of our secret LARP that we talk about, I brought that to the table. Like, what about band guns? And we're all kind of like, if you really get shot in the eye with that, that's because they use like surgical tubing as their ammo. And it's like a thick thing. And actually, we had a friend of ours say that I think he got shot by one, and he's like, they shoot real hard. So that kind of like left that in the dust, and now we are where we are with the tech. So basically, how it works is, and I guess we could jump over to photos. Also, when we switch over, I'm testing a new thing. If the chat does not show up, I apologize.
It's really cool to know, though, that like LARPs are using guns in places of the world, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like it's an actual thing. So like I'm just like excited about that. Like I didn't know for a long time, and I guess it's been around for a little while now. So
yeah, I was kind of mind blown when I first saw that there was games doing it. I think the big appeal too with like the rifles and the pistols that shoot the Nerf rival balls is that they have this, I can't remember if it's like a powder they pour in along with where the ball goes, so that when it shoots, it gets smoke like that.
Yeah, it's well, Justin told me they use talc, TALC, which I'm not exactly sure what it's like a type of powder. And then he also linked me to a powder that I think is used in like airsoft or even some like reenactment communities that burns a lot cleaner. He said that those were the two that worked really well for him. I don't think the chat's working, which is whatever. If anybody can confirm. So that big. Oh, no. I see it.
Yeah. They just needed somebody else to talk, I guess. So
perfect.
Cool.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, some of these photos were provided by Justin. Some I found on my own. That is not Justin, but that's on his website. They play a game which is called Cry Havoc, and it's in the UK. Oh boy. All right, no, that's not gonna. There we go. So that's Justin right there. I mean, as you can see, I mean, looking at the gun, that's like, oh no. Hold on a second.
We're running out of time.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second, everybody.
It's over.
I gotta upgrade with Zoom. Anyways,
Really quick. Tom's gotta pay a subscription.
We have 10 more minutes. And I'll upgrade it. But that's Justin. That's him and his LARP. I was gonna say, as you can see, that totally passes even under the 5-foot rule, I'd say. I mean, the stock is made out of wood. I mean,
hold that in your hands and it looks like a real gun, probably.
Yeah, like all the things were developed by him from scratch. It's really amazing stuff. I'm really excited about it.
What do the B3 muskets shoot?
They shoot rival balls, but I've even seen like Nerf people review B3, and I'm not dumping. This is their words, but it kind of underperforms on accuracy and distance. The spring they use and the plunger that pushes it is very weak and like wobbly. So it seems like a lot of people are kind of like, some people are psyched about it, I guess. Depends on the type of game you play, but some people I think see it as kind of like, no, not really, for me.
Yeah. Speaking of dumping on B3, we never really took our shot last week at talking about their like speed bat things they make that B-Clean allows, which I have just incredibly personal feelings against, but we could save that for the end. I just thought of that really quick when you said dump and B3 in the same sentence.
Big old dump.
I think the stuff Justin makes looks awesome. I really hope that at some point he gets to a point where he can manufacture it on a massive enough level to just sell them or make them custom for people like upon request.
Yeah. So
because nothing seems better than what he's doing right now.
He spoke to me and I kind of asked him and said, when can you expect? Because he talked about selling kits and he said December maybe. Which I don't hold me or him to that, because I mean it's a long process and I'm not trying to put a rush on him or anything, but that's exciting. I mean, that's pretty exciting. I think
freaking awesome.
He had mentioned that it reaches at least 90 FPS, which I believe is close to the average of how the FPS Nerf guns get. And then he actually has a hop-up mechanism, which is usually in like airsoft or certain other type of blasters like that actually increases the distance. It like puts like a spin, which will like increase the distance, and I think maybe consistency of the shot instead of it just being like just like being pushed out.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Poo. I love that. I hope that's what they sound like. Yeah. I like to, because in the videos, they're pretty damn loud.
Yeah,
I want like big bang, big smoke, a little bit of fire if I can get it. Like I just want something that seems like a real gun, aside from a bullet doesn't come out, a little soft yellow ball does instead.
Yeah, and the way that the Nerf ball, the rival ball, is even designed, and that I've heard a lot of these people say, is it doesn't have enough mass. I mean, I guess depending on what you're shooting it out of, because I mean, I've seen people shoot Nerf darts through like glass and stuff, but depending on what you're shooting it out of, it doesn't have enough mass to really damage the eye. It's just recommended because Nerf is sold to kids and all that, but it's just not recommended, and it's not really like ethical to shoot somebody in the face, so don't. But
regardless of what ammo we would end up preferring for like a game out here, I don't think we would ever advocate for a rule that allows shooting in the neck.
I think that goes without saying. It's not a good idea.
I mean, it's one thing like when you fire and you're like 10 feet away from someone and you can easily aim to where you're firing, even with these like quote unquote toy guns. But it's another thing like when you're really far away and the air lifts or lowers that ball and it does hit someone in the face or the eye, like there will be accidents, but at that distance, I mean, and depending on how these guns are made, it shouldn't do damage like that.
Yeah. I'll be way less worried about the rival balls than I would ever be worried about like the darts.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I've gotten blasted in the face with darts from doing Humans versus Zombies, and
Yep.
that's not fun, especially when we modified the guns to make them insanely dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty much as soon as I figured out we could do this with Nerf stuff instead of band guns, I was like, we don't ever need to do band guns.
Yeah,
I like how simple they are, but there's not really a great way to get all the smoke or the big bang. It's just a click in a rubber band flying, and
Yeah.
even getting hit like in a bare arm would probably suck if you were close enough to somebody blasting you with a rubber band. I keep getting flashbacks to like those like little catapults kids would make, or like at school you'd blast your friends with rubber bands and like hair ties and stuff.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to traumatize people with that.
Before getting into LARP, like of course I did some paintball a couple times, and I had airsoft guns and Nerf guns. And I remember airsoft gun, like we used to do this thing called the knee club, and we'd go up to our friends with our airsoft guns, be like, hey, you want to join the knee club? They'll be like, sure. And you shoot them right in the kneecap with an airsoft bullet. That stuff hurts.
I never even realized they got rid of the round tip arrows at Be Clean.
Yeah, I think Did they? Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm trying to do this.
There's a lot of things I realized that I haven't realized about Be Clean today. I saw a post on the Facebook for the community about armor, and I guess I've just never really looked at the actual page for it. I've just kind of gone by word of mouth on how all the rules are for fighting at Be Clean. But until today, I had always thought that the armor rules were leather armor gives you 1 extra point, so 1 extra hit, and then it hits your body and you're dead. Chain gives you 2 extra points, and then it hits your body and you're dead. And then any sort of plate gives you 3, and then it hits your body and you're dead. This is not true. I have been cheating. It's actually extremely loose, and they kind of just show this mess of pictures on like, here's what 1 point of armor is, here's what 2 points are, and a couple of the pictures look like the same thing to me. So I'm just, and then like for like they show a picture of somebody in metal lamellar for 1 point, but then they show somebody in like samurai armor for 2 points, and I'm like, well, why? Like what does that samurai armor have to do with its metal plates laced together like metal lamb? Why would metal lamb be 2 points? But I digress.
Yeah, so I don't understand that either. Mauzudo in the comments says he knows what's up with Bicko's armor rules. But yeah,
I guess somebody must have told me the old rules.
Okay.
Because I think that's what happened. I was taking 3 hits to my lamellar and then taking a hit for death.
Okay.
So I'm sorry to everybody that I've unfairly ignored your hits.
Wait, so is Brigandine the same as lamellar then?
So like they showed like Brig in the sense that the metal plates were on the outside of the leather, I'm pretty sure was on the 1 point side. But then they were showing like a coat of plates inside out on the 2 point side. I was really confused. I think they need to see. That was the thing too, is that their designation was because like on the coat of plates it overlaps, and I'm like, well, that's exactly what lamellar does. It's just a bunch of little metal plates overlapping. I don't know. I think they need it seems like that post is meant to spurn some kind of discussion, so I'm hoping that's what's going to happen here.
Just real quick, in under a minute we might have technical difficulties.
Here we go.
I upgraded, but it says we have less than a minute left, so I might have to refire up the call if we get connected. So just a heads up.
Okay.
No worries.
Everybody be prepared for that. Please don't tune out.
It'll just be me panicking. So if you're excited to see that.
So what is that one of Justin's there on that chair?
Yes, that was the original one I found on that home build website. Wow. I mean, that's it, and that's the cool thing is it's made out of wood. It's got a metal barrel. I mean, his kit will have a metal barrel. And I actually didn't confirm with him or not if he would be selling the wood option, but alrighty, Let me sign in real quick. What is going on, guys? I never knew that Zoom was a subscription. So, fire this up real quick. Don't you love live? We'll have them rejoin in a second. Let me go to chat here. I'm going to pop back. I sent them a new invite, so we should have the fellas back shortly. Things might look a little goof at first. We'll see. Got Mike back.
What's up, guys?
We did it. All right.
We did it. All right.
So I upgraded with my other email. So
that was actually really convenient because I had to let out a huge burp. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back.
Feel 10 pounds lighter.
Sweet.
That's a big burp.
I noticed this chat box. It looks like I'm only getting Twitch.
It's like, oh, is it supposed to be a mix of everything?
I don't know. I don't think I really like it.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't think that'll make it in the next episode, but
we tried.
I'll figure it out.
It's like weird and like distorted a bit too. It's like
I tried to fit it in there.
I thought what you were doing was making it so that little Discord chat that we have was going to show up on the screen so that we could post stuff live. I didn't know because I mean, the other thing too is like I'm sitting here when we do this, I'm sitting here watching our Twitch. So It's like I just have the chat next to a chat where it shows like the same 3 messages and they disappear. So it's
only really for the upload later for like YouTube and stuff. So I mean, it's just to include what you guys say, so there's more context. But if it doesn't really seem worth it, I mean, comment for sure.
We'll keep trying things like this, people. We're all learning together.
Yeah.
And we appreciate everybody that endures us during our test things and whatever. So you're saying he's selling these as a kit, like he'll send you parts and you just got to put it together yourself?
Yes. So it's the kit that he's talking about is all 3D printed, and then it's basically the stock handle part is 3 parts, like the barrel portion. Can you see my mouse? And then the handle, and then the middle portion. And is really awesome, like lock mechanism and everything. So like everything's in the barrel, the spring, and it's actually I believe that instead of it being like a Nerf gun where it's like air pressure, this is actually pushing it. Like the spring is hitting the ball, like it's pushing the ball out, and then it's hitting the hop up on the way, which makes it go and shoot. I wish I could show video.
It looks cool.
He's had a couple test fire videos and stuff and updates, but yeah, this is, I mean, it being sold in kits, I think will probably make it, well, I don't want to project, but it'll definitely make it easier to send through the mail. I want to believe. And then he currently has an earlier prototype. I think it's on GitHub. And he's very open source too, which I think is very cool. So I don't know if this plan will be eventually up for download, like the file, to have people 3D print it themselves. There's obviously components that you need that cannot be 3D printed. I don't know, maybe we'll have him on the show one day and he can talk about it.
Yeah, it'd be cool. He would actually be a really cool guest to have, just because the insight into just kind of like where he's going with this. Because if this becomes something so readily and easily available that we could just start pumping these things out, like it's a big game changer, because it's so hard for us to just find any sort of source on these things. I mean, the only things we've been able to get were these like cap pistol things that are what we are assuming are the same thing that the pirates are shooting into the air beagling. But they don't shoot anything. I mean, they're very nice looking. They look like real guns.
That's so
Yeah.
sweet.
It's a company called Denix, I believe, from Spain. They sell them on Amazon. They're like $30, $35.
Are those wooden?
Yeah, it's wood.
Yeah, the handle's wood.
And I think
everything's
pewter.
wood and metal. Yeah, and like
so cool.
I got like a fancy one that has like brass coating on it. So it does have like, you'll see here after I cock this daddy back. It has a little nub that looks like it should be for like a little red cap.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously you would pull the trigger and smash it and it makes it bang and some smoke.
So cool.
It just doesn't shoot anything, but I'm perfectly happy just pointing something and making a noise. Like, that's sweet.
Yeah, or having it like in the sash.
Yeah, just wearing it around is going to be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think these things are dope.
Mm-hmm.
Those times.
But I mean, going from that to the picture on the screen of actually having something that shoots, and that's like, I geek out about that. Even getting like an actual like long gun like that, and some of those Kozak Media videos where they have like the leather, it's like a leather like sheath for it, or like carrier, like a.
Oh, that's sweet.
And just carrying that around, like, I don't know, that'd be sweet. That'd
Yeah,
be awesome.
It's so cool. Now with the guy who's making them, he's from the UK, right?
Yes.
And what was the whole ordeal about as he's producing these? Like, there's the like UK laws that he can only he's not allowed. You're not allowed to make any kind of like propulsion toy, weapon, anything because of like laws. What was that?
Well, I think there's a law in the UK that if it's beyond, I don't know if they use joules there. I'm not a science person. I don't even know what that's all about. But but if the laws in the UK are very strict that if it reaches over a certain point, or I think it's a certain FPS even if it's shooting darts, it's considered a weapon.
Yeah.
So they have to really control it. In an earlier conversation in that chat, I mentioned, like a Nerf blaster, is it possible for someone to change the spring? Depending on your country, what's legal. And I mean, people in the Nerf community mod so it shoots harder. He said, well, sure, definitely. I mean, there's nothing in the construction process that's glued or permanent. So someone could definitely, take it apart and change it, and I think that's awesome. And I mean, he seems very diligent about making them out of one, durable materials, but also with the 3D printing to make them affordable instead of doing everything in metal and fabricating. So I don't know. I feel like it's just a really great gift to the community to have somebody that, one, is a very open source oriented person that kind of just like, to me, that means like, I really want to do this for the community and I want to share the information so we can all enjoy it together, instead of someone that's like, no, this is my business, which that's cool too, but this is my business, don't copy it. I don't know. I like that sense of community and like openness about it.
Yeah. We did seem to meet some kind of, I don't want to say resistance, but there was some like kind of communication gone cold with people when we were talking about band guns with certain people that were making them.
Yeah.
So it is really cool to have somebody that's like, oh, well, like, here's my files for the 3D printing. Like, if you guys just want to do it yourself, like,
yeah.
Blows my mind too. So even all the ones in these pictures are 3D printed deals.
No. These are the early prototypes where it's actually wood.
So just that pistol is like the 3D print.
The pistol is the kit, the 3D printed kit one. I don't know a lot about 3D printing. I don't know if Joel's in here, if he's Father Goblin.
That is him, yes.
Okay. He knows some people that 3D print. I know there's different levels of, I don't know if it's PLA. It's like the plastic or whatever that you use to, or the compound that is put in there. I think you can do like varying strengths, or like some are serve a different purpose for whatever you're making.
Okay, so like the mechanism will have more fortitude, all the moving parts and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are other creators in that group, but it's kind of like what's the priority? So there's people that are making it for the Nerf community. There's people that are making, ones that shoot darts, and it's awesome. And I mean, they've done the same thing where you can either buy the kit or you can download the files. But really, it's the marriage of rival ball, cap, smoke, all together. That is really
I think that chat actually worked because Nick asked something and it popped up in the chat on the screen, but not in the Twitch chat. So I think it is taking the stuff from Facebook.
It's doing something, because on my display, it's only popping up at the bottom and then it just disappears.
Yeah, and to address this question, eventually you could take plastic and change it out for wood, because you're just pretty much, it's all in the barrel.
My immediate thought was like, I want all of the moving parts necessary from this kit, but anything that would be 3D printed that could be made out of wood, I would almost either rather try to make it ourselves or find somebody that would make us wood pistol handles.
Well, and the beauty of that is we could literally buy one kit and then take just the stock portion, because you need to do the wood part to where it fits like it needs to fit. I mean, I'm not a woodworker, but someone that's good at like replicating shape, in cutting it and doing all that stuff, to where if we could actually produce those or have somebody make them for us, to where it could be wood. I mean, the lock mechanism is always going to be 3D printed, unless we can talk to Justin and have him fabricate metal ones. But I definitely don't think that'll be as accessible. But I couldn't.
That's my thing, is that it's so much easier. Just like my trigger broke, I can just print out a new one to replace it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I love that.
Cool.
Rather than like, awesome. My trigger broke, it was made out of metal. Let me talk to Justin in the UK and have him ship me a new one for $35.
Well, not only that, but if you think about the power of 3D printing, is you could 3D print it all out white, or someone in the chat is saying, I think Joel's saying, like, you can get like certain colors of the plastic. But that's the cool thing. It's almost like building a model. You could print out all the parts. You may not even have the right plastic, but that would be cool to like paint it and detail it and customize it. So, I mean, we could all technically, let's say, if it was all that was available, we'd all have the same exact model, but you could really take it upon yourself to like
personalize it.
Yeah, etch something in the handle or modify it, and I think that's awesome.
I want a big tassel hanging off the back of mine.
Yeah.
So cool.
I just realized I couldn't help myself, but when Tom was ordering these, this was like my birthday present from Tom. He was like, "Which one do you want?" And like, out of all of them, I was like, "I want the one that has all this big, ridiculous like brass stuff on it."
So cool.
I want to, because I just want people to look at me.
Yeah. It's so freaking cool.
These are so cool, but they are. I don't even think we realized it at the time, because we were so new to like getting into flintlock stuff and like addressing how they would fit in our kits with what we're doing. And I don't think we even realized that these are so much later period than what would fit for what we're doing.
Oh yeah. No, I knew that. I mean, it's something where, and maybe other LARPers have experienced this, but let's say you're doing something really specific that isn't necessarily from like the norm or the really, available things. You really kind of have to make do with what is there. So in my experience, this company, these were the only cap firing flintlocks I could find that one fired caps, and that's it. I mean, they make a bunch of replica things, but they don't necessarily fire caps. So that's something that I really wanted to have. No one's pumping out, really big Cossack flint. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, no, there's no company that's like, hey, we can make money off of that. Let's make those. Right. You know what I mean? Same thing like when you see a saber. Yeah. When you see a saber, it's always like, well, here's this French saber. Or like, here's this British cavalry saber.
Here's this Napoleonic era.
Yeah.
Like
nobody. Yeah. And that's the thing too that I feel like is the lifeblood of this stream, this podcast, is like, there's a lot of cool stuff out there that I wish more people cared about, because it is really fun, and like maybe some makers would actually make some stuff if they
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
that there was interest,
I freaking really like. I just watched that movie yesterday, and like, I would like matchlock rifles like so bad.
Yeah.
Like I don't care. Like arrows, mixing up the arrows a little bit. It's just they're so cool in warfare.
I mean, that's what would be, I think, the most accurate for what we're doing with a lot of the like Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and the Revolutionary Cossack stuff. Like that, I think that would be the most fitting for us.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why I love these big boxy matchlock things that he does.
I want a wheel lock.
Those two,
Yeah.
those would fit too.
But I feel like that's even deeper in the who's even heard of that hole as far as like general LARP is concerned. You know what I mean? Like you really got to be a reenactor or someone that really likes, that era of firearms to actually even know what that is. So I'm hoping that more people, especially let's say he starts selling these kits in December, people start buying them. Whenever LARP season happens again, people are using them or talking about them. It could open up that people are like, whoa, this is a thing. And then the more they use those, they might think like, oh, cool, what about a wheel lock? Oh, cool, what about you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. They're just so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll always love the flintlocks too, just because of my whole beginning of like enjoying playing pretend with swords was my obsession with pirates.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always gonna like 18th century flintlocks.
Oh, me too. All the time.
But yeah.
Do we think that we might be done with photos? I mean, I'm just cycling through the photos.
There's a couple that I sent to you if you want to talk about other gun options.
Oh yeah, you sure did.
Yeah, I mean, there's like the bandoliers and the magazines, the gunpowder cartridges and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me
Those
see
are cool.
Real quick.
Tom had a lot of really cool ideas when we were talking about like trying to work guns into the rule set for the LARP that we're trying to develop with some friends, where like the bandoliers that hang off or the cartridges that hang off the bandoliers would actually be functional in a sense. Like they would be big enough to fit the rival ball and enough powder, and you would pour them in and jam them down, and you can only carry only so many on the field at a time.
Yeah.
But
Nick says, when can we get cannons?
So actually, there's a guy in Poland. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but
gonna get Natalie.
In English, it's Arthur, I believe, but there's no H in Poland, so I think it's just, I don't know if it's Arthur. But I was in correspondence with him because he makes awesome stuff. But his I'm gonna start calling them like Larp Blasters, I think, instead of guns, just to like
blast them.
Blasters.
Blasters.
But he makes his all air powered, so where you would use it like because all of these that we've been looking at are primed with a ramrod. So you put the rod down the barrel to prime the mechanism, and then you put the ball in.
It's a spring, right?
And it's a spring. Whereas the other kind, you put the ball in, and there's a ramrod that's connected to the gun or the blaster, and you go through the motion like you're ramrodding, but what you're doing is you're just pulling a tube out and putting it back in, which is like a pumping action, which I think is really cool. But the only thing with that is I don't. And he's an engineer. He did everything on a lathe. It's like super impressive. Everything's made out of wood. It's like really clean and like, whoo, I bet it's expensive. But the only thing that I would think with that is they do have gauges, but I don't know how rules would work. Like, oh man, somebody pumped it 10 times when they were supposed to pump it 5 times, and then they shot somebody and it was like too hard.
And it killed them.
And then they exploded. But then with the spring, it's gonna pretty much fire the same FPS, around the same FPS every time. I mean, it's warm in here.
Yeah, I'd rather have something more mechanical and consistent than like expect people to do a certain amount of pumps or keep track of a certain amount of pressure.
And with a spring, it essentially is it is a Nerf gun. That's pretty much exactly what a
Yeah.
Nerf gun is. So like it's just a spring, and there's you get like suction in there, but um you're
Jordan makes a
never.
good point. There's ways that they can self limit, like they can only
Yep.
allow a certain amount of. That's the thing, is that they can be built to maximize at a safe level so that they could never go beyond and become something dangerous. Then I wouldn't worry about it. But
Yeah. So
if they're built in
Jordan,
a way that you have to trust people, then that's the second you have to trust people to do a certain thing and not do the bad thing in LARP. I feel like you're being a goofball.
yeah, Jordan and I, we used to mod our Nerf guns way back in the day. Like we would take new springs, or we would like stretch out our springs and put it all back together. So like I'm really curious to see how this works. We also found out in the process that like by trying to mod them, make them stronger, you can like stretch that spring and just totally ruin the gun. Like it doesn't even fire that well anymore. So yeah, like I'm excited to see how it goes, but
I did ruin a lot of Nerf guns trying to mod them for Humans versus Zombies when I was in high school.
Me too.
The Busby ones were so much easier to work with. They were so much less complicated. But Nerf guns, I don't know if like earlier on Nerf was, because I know Nerf is super supportive of modding now, and they even make certain lines that are meant to be modded. But back in the day, I had a feeling that they purposely made their builds so complicated so that if you weren't being super careful, you would essentially just ruin the gun in an attempt to mod it. And that's why so many of us started using Busbies, because Busbies were so simple and cheap. So even if you did ruin it, which it was harder to ruin them, they were just, I don't know, they were just more cooperative with doing that. But I think we've said several times that in the process of making our own game, we are still concerned about safety, but almost entirely concerned about aesthetic overall.
Yep.
So, I mean, even if we ended up with the best looking guns and there was something safer, if it didn't look as good, it would have to be such a significant amount safer for me to be like, well, I guess we could. Because I just want everything to look really good. I want people to like, not even just look at pictures of like what we end up doing, but like if there was a video of fighting for what we're doing, I want people to almost think it's real.
Yeah.
You know?
Tom, do you have that picture of that
LARP
knight with the hand cannon?
I'm trying to.
No worries.
It's being.
You're talking about Czech LARP, Mike?
Being a butt.
That video of that Czech LARP that we saw earlier, we should try to bring that up too. Sorry, I know, Tom, you're getting all stressed out trying to make all this stuff work.
What are you talking about? I'm not stressed. Me?
But Czech LARP, Czech LARP once again just looks so good. They seem to fight a lot harder than most LARPs, and I can't remember. Tom, were you communicating with that guy about the sword?
Yes. So that's one of the pictures. Jeez, oh Pete. Are you talking about fake steel?
Was that the same people that showed you that saber?
Yes. So we mentioned this. I think it was last episode when we did the armory. There's a company called Fake Steel. It's Fake Steel Armory. They're in Czech Republic, is it?
Yes.
And I sent them a message like earlier in the week, and I kind of got like an automated like, we're away right now, and then whoever it was responded to me today and was like, oh, I'm here to answer your questions. So I was telling them about stuff and told them kind of what I was looking for. They're about to actually like unveil like their next line of things, which is exciting. But he was sending me YouTube videos of the LARPs there. And when I saw him, I was like, wow, it's like really kind of what we want. I mean, it's the only difference is you have to have a helmet and you have to have a gambeson. Other than that, the way they build the swords are a little different, and they actually have they have spears, but they put like the spearhead just on like a wooden pike.
I think those things are related. Like I think the reason that they require the gambeson and require the helmet is because like
Oh yeah, for sure.
the
Yeah.
swords they're using aren't foam LARP swords. They're
Well, he says there's a mix. He said the ones they
Yeah.
make are foam,
Mhm.
and they're on the softer side of swords that are made there. But some companies actually use rubber blades, and then there are even some that have actual steel handles and guards. So
I want that though.
yeah, I mean, I don't know about this. I don't think we got to go all the way to steel. I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
what are you really trying to protect against? I guess if like someone swings a pike at you and they're not supposed to, and there's wood coming your way, that'd be cool. To, like,
I mean,
block
yeah.
it.
I mean, if they're using pole arms that have actual wood shafts that aren't covered up, then I completely understand why they have metal hand guards.
Right.
Mhm.
But I guess I'm looking for that like, we don't have to necessarily go to that point with the tech that we're already used to.
Right.
Like the more you have
true.
to
Yeah,
actually
no.
like wear safety protection, I'm like that. Well, then let's just join SCA
Yeah.
at that point. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like I want it to be realistic. I want it to be durable, but I want somebody that has like an aluminum helmet or no helmet at all to not be afraid for their safety
Mhm.
if they want to fight. It
Yes.
could be like heavily recommended and like at use your discretion, but I don't want to be like, oh well, if you want to fight, you got to go buy this helmet and you got to go, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would play a game like that because I already got that stuff. So
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, these guns and these pictures, the one with in the air, that's definitely a matchlock. And like, I just watched a film with them everywhere, and I'm just obsessed now.
do I have that other one somewhere?
I'm gonna look up and see.
That one's a hand cannon. I freaking would love to see those in a LARP.
Oh, that
too.
would be nuts.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. That's the Vigo movie, right?
Viggo Mortensen. Yeah, this is a 2006 movie I never knew about, and it's the only. I think it's like the only movie with Viggo Mortensen that matters. um, it's seriously so good. It's like a Spanish musketeer.
Wait, what about Hidalgo?
No, Hidalgo was good. He made that 2 years before this. Hidalgo was good too. But like 2006, and I never heard about this like Spanish film. It's called like in English, Captain Alatriste, and it's like the sword fighting's great, the guns and the bullet wounds, and like it's just so freaking authentic. I freaking love this movie.
Yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah. Like the battles just get so cool, and like the best part about it is at the end, like there's this like lord, and he's like being hoisted and like thrown during the battle, and he gets shot by a bullet in his like chest plate armor, and then like there's just a bullet hole there, and of course you know that he's like blown up on the inside, but he continues to live. And he's just like and it's the coolest it's the coolest thing.
Well,
Like that great movie. Check it out, everyone.
if you want to see a really crappy, well, not crappy, but if you want to really feel crappy about yourself, you ever see The Road?
Yeah, that's a good one. Never mind.
That has
Viggo
nothing to do
movie is
with
good.
LARP, but woo.
Really early into dating Natalie, she was like, "Oh, like what books are you into?" And I was like, "Oh, like I've barely read since college because it traumatized me, and looking at words hurts me now." But when I was in high school, I like carried it around The Road, and I read it like 8 times, like over and over again. I just loved it, and I never realized that like when I was in high school, I was just fine with being miserable. But when you read that as like an adult in your late 20s, it's like, oh great, like you're depressed for the rest of the year now.
Yep.
Yeah,
So I
that
just
movie was-
totally
oh my god.
I feel like I ruined her year making her read that book. And then she tried to read, there's like a cowboy book he did. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like, it's just total misery, the things that happen. Cormac McCarthy's nuts. I don't know how he comes up with the stuff he does. I'm looking at the Zweihander rules because one of the things that I did want to talk about while we were on the topic of firearms was the different like points that people take for damage on firearms or how they work with armor. And I know somebody in chat pointed out earlier, if we didn't make it clear enough, there are no like gun rules for Beacoline. There's just people that shoot guns in the air, like for fun.
Mm-hmm.
You can't actually shoot people at Beacoline, and like I know I've had things described to me before where like if you were doing like a LARPy thing with people and you were role playing or something and you had a pistol and you shot them, like they could it's kind of like that victim rule deal that we talked about in the very first episode of this, where like if somebody shoots at you, it doesn't mean they automatically shot you because there's nothing actually shooting at you. But you can choose to play that you got shot, or that they missed, or whatever, or that it nicked you in the face or something. But I'm gonna try to look for the Zweihander rules. I don't know if you know off the top of your head how Swordcraft does their band gun rules and how they work with like armor or damage, or if it's just like
I did at one point. I mean, part of the recent discussion that I had with Justin, he had confirmed, which I should probably pull it up, but he was giving me like tips and like the experiences, because like what a great perspective of someone that's actually like play tested and been in a game that does firearms. But I believe they do it the way where like if you get shot in the chest, you're dead. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. It like goes through because it offsets the load time. He said the guns take upwards of 20 to 30 seconds to load.
That's if you're fast.
So like that's the whole point. I don't even like, let's say hypothetically they started doing it at Bico. I don't know how they would do it, but I think with their current siege weapons, like you get hit, you're dead, like anywhere. But that's a siege weapon. But
see, I think getting hit by a shot is it just counts as a point of damage in Zweihander.
Really?
Because they don't specify anything about. So under firearms, they list that they only list rules about what kind of firearm it can be, what it has to do when it shoots, and who's allowed to carry them. And then when you look at counting hits, they just talk about how each player has a base of 2 hit points. Each player has a metal helmet on their head. If they have the metal helmet, they have 3 points. They can only fight if they have 1 left. They're out of the fight when they lose all their HP, and then they're considered wounded. A player hit by a weapon assesses whether the blow has harmed their character and caused them to lose a hit point. So it's an honor-based deal. Like, it doesn't specify anything about melee and firearm being different damage. So I think they just take it as a point of damage if you get hit.
So chat is asking, what kind of combat vibes are you going for? More European RP fighting, sports fighting, or LARP with levels and lots of HP?
So we all came from like a hardly any roleplay background, where it was pretty much just like a sword sport. So I think most of us are on the same page, where we want the complete opposite of that. If I'm right to say so, right?
Well,
you can go ahead, Tom.
I feel like I've been talking this whole time, but I'll say at the start, yes, but I still don't know a ton about it, but what we've seen, I really want the LARP world to turn their eye to check LARPs, because for me, it's like, I really want the immersion. I really want the level of costuming. I really want the role play, but that's just from my perspective because I haven't had that. But I also don't want to downplay because I mean, the big thing that drew us to it from the start is the competition, the physicality, the able to improve and get better. There is a huge satisfaction level of like, whoa, like I just did those 3 moves in a row and I didn't even think about it, and I beat that person, and like I feel sweet. Like I don't want to lose that, but I want to keep that at its core, but I want to dump all those other toppings on top.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I still want the combat to be like, oh man, like I really cleaned up, or like all 3 of us go back to back and we like kill a bunch of dudes, and then like, but it would be cool people role played along with it. That's my viewpoint.
I am slowly, but not surely, coming to understand theatrical fighting. And when I say that, I mean things like how it looks like Conquest goes down. with like NPC undead guys. Like they pretty blatantly said in one of the streams I watched that like the whole point is to make the players that paid to be there feel like heroes. So it's really hard to explain. I feel they aren't like doing competitive fighting.
No.
They are doing very exaggerated blows, and they are selling their shots like it's pro wrestling, and like things are knocking you back or throwing you off balance. And there's some really cool videos of guys that you could tell either have some kind of tumbling or gymnastics training, or maybe even pro wrestling, because so much of it looks like pro wrestling to me, where they're doing really cool, like super choreographed fake fighting. And it's just two people, so it's not like you could ever go on a field with hundreds of people and make that work.
No.
And I'm like, that looks really cool, but I don't want to give up the idea of like simulating we trained and prepared and we strategized and we thought this out in a certain way and we won this on our own merit.
Well, for sure. Yeah.
As much as it's like we're trying to tell a story here, so here's how the fight's going to go. I don't mind that, but I much prefer here's how the fight went and this is the story that told. So and that's the thing too, is that I feel like you can't just lump in every single European LARP together, because the more that we start finding all these different games that do different things, almost none of them are the same.
Right.
Like we just watched that video of whatever Czech LARP game that was, and that doesn't look anything like
I mean, if you
Epic
want
Empires or Conquest. I would say bring that up and show people, because that looks like Dagger here to me. Like I can
mute
cool
weapons,
because I think it has
it might have some kind of licensed music on it. I think it has Instafirm or something.
Yeah, it does have.
No, it was Kalani.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I know it was some
thing.
folk
So just
band,
mute it anyways, because it's awful. But
yeah, it's that hunting song. Like, man, I haven't heard that in a while.
Go to the forest.
I never got into that, just so I could save myself whatever.
They're like Finnish, like gold, gold.
I liked it when I was 12. When this video comes up, for you guys who know LARP and stuff, watch, like you'll see them like they go down for their deaths, but then they get out of the way of the battle and they go and they respawn. And I love the speed at their combat.
Yeah, they're not pulling anything, and it's not like super like HMB, like I'm trying to put this guy in the dirt or anything, but
yeah,
they do shield contact. You can push people with your shields, and you can manipulate other people's shields with your. That's a big thing that like screwed me up when I first got to Beakling, because so much of my fighting in Dag and Bell has been me edging people's shields and trying to move their shield out of the way so I could get in there and do something.
Yeah.
So the second that I couldn't do that anymore, I was like, whew, like I need to like rethink my whole game. And really all it did was make me put a shield down, and I just need to put 2 sorting.
Yep.
But I want something that I feel like the big like 3 things I really care about is I want armor to matter, and I want the amount and the type of armor you're wearing to matter. I don't want you're wearing armor so you get an extra point. I want you're wearing a gambeson and a leather jerkin, you get 1 point. I want you're wearing a gambeson and chainmail, you get 2 points. I want you're wearing this whole huge harness kit plate crazy friggin' knight thing, you get 3 points before somebody could even touch you. Because I firmly believe in the hampering and the disadvantages you get out of wearing that armor, and I want it to matter. I want it to be worth something. I want beyond armor mattering, I want the combat to be you are trying to kill the guy and you are trying to win. I don't get a lot out of watching like the theatrical fighting. I know why people do it. But I much rather prefer watching people that use skill. And that's not me saying that fighting has to be super competitive, as much as it is just that's what I enjoy more. And Czech LARP seems to be doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
The other thing, the third thing is that I want people to understand that combat isn't for everybody, and that if combat looks like an ugly, scary thing to you, it's because it is. And that's not me trying to be like only the tough should do it. I'm just saying that there's going to be more to the ideal LARP in my head. There's going to be so much more to it than fighting that like nobody's ever going to be left out by being like, "Oof, this combat isn't for me."
yeah,
Like in my mind, I want there to be people that aren't into the combat. I mean, there's like look at real life right now. Like, how many of you are like eager to go pick up a gun and start shooting people? Like, that sounds fun to you.
I hope it's a very small amount, if nothing.
Yes.
I hope that's
That's supposed to be a rhetorical question.
Anybody that's viewing now, yeah.
Get the F out of here.
If the answer to that rhetorical question isn't exactly what it should be, then yes, I have concerns. But
the other thing is, I'm really glad we said that, because like I'm pretty sure the FBI has been watching this whole entire thing because we're talking about guns.
Probably, but that's the thing, is that I don't want combat to be something that's like, oh, like we made it this way so everybody can enjoy it. Is I'm like, well, it's war. It's not supposed to be enjoyed. Like it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I want like I like those feelings you get when you watch an epic war movie and they don't feel good after it's over. Like lives have been lost and blood has been spilled and things will never be the same because of things that happened. Like that's the feeling I'm going after. I want it to be an ugly, heavy, miserable thing.
Realism. Here's another thing. Like for those of you viewers who have been in Dagger here, or like American like sport LARPs, or if you're from a role playing kind of thing background, I think the mixture is, in my perspective, like I've done a lot of acting. My mother was a theater director, so I grew up pretty much on a stage. But the thing is that's different for me is when I started LARPing and doing a combat sport and really understanding that, like, okay, we're going full speed in this game. That's when I could role play my best in the battle sense, is knowing that I could get hurt or I could get like crushed right now, or like in moments when I'm coming out on top. That's been my best role play, is like real combat, or the closest to real combat that I can get, you know? And I think everybody else, like Mike and Tom, have also experienced that too.
Well, there's real, if not anxiety, there's real fear sometimes.
Yeah.
So
even in those games,
yeah, it definitely. I mean, it's putting yourself in a stressful situation versus me putting you in an empty white room and saying, "Josh, pretend like you're scared." You're pulling all that from nothing, and you have to do it. Versus like you're there, and it's easy to click into that feeling. It's you know what I mean. Like you're already 70% of the way there. I have the video up. I don't know if you guys want to watch it.
Let's do it.
I mean, we can just play it in the background. There should be no.
Yeah, we can just keep talking. But the whole point is just to show people, like, pretty much the closest thing that I can see already happening to what I would really like something we did here to look like.
It's a mix already of the two worlds. There's headshots. You can use your shield to push people, which Beakeline does not allow. All their kits look great. All their weapons look great. It looks like very competitive fighting. I mean, they got this great. What are they at, a castle?
Yeah.
Well, they had the advantage of living where they were built.
But I mean, look at the kits. I mean, the kits are better than some like movies I've seen, just from the aerial view. It'll zoom in, I think. But I mean, those people are. That looks like
after.
HMB.
They're not
like I don't think it's like, oh, like I'm gonna like bash this dude in the dirt and try to like that looks to me like how Dagger here has always looked to me.
Right.
Only
like that looks like, and except it all looks better because the swords look better and all the kits look better and
the spears are so cool.
And they're in a castle.
I just see a bunch of glorious pole arms swinging downward, and I'm like,
yeah, they're like high sticking.
Like, take me there.
So
helmets.
But this is pretty much what I'm after.
Freaking sick.
Like it just looks good to me. Like it's none of this like tiptoeing up to each other and standing in a line and waiting for each other to swing and taking little pot shots. They're using they are using LARP weapons. It's just that they and some of them will use latex weapons, but some of them use these like ultra sturdy rubber weapons that even have like metal handguards in some of them, and their pole arms are wood shafts, but they have foam tips.
Think of it like this too. The impression I got from the person at Fake Steel Armory, I mentioned curved swords because our previous discussion, and it's funny, I forgot to mention this to you guys, but he brought up Elysian Forge, and I was like, oh yeah. Like I know about those guys, but
we know.
But I mentioned latex, and they were like, oh, that like latex is done. So like in their part of LARP,
I get
they're
like
done.
This is the future vibe when I see this stuff.
They're done. So the stuff they're using is like, I don't know what kind of foam it is, but it's like real durable. Where on their Facebook they have a video of he's got a blade of a sword that has like a dog ear of the foam hanging off of it. They put it in a vise and he's pulling to try to rip it, and he pulls so hard that it pulls it out of the vise and doesn't rip the foam. So I don't know what these weapons feel like. Obviously, if you have to wear a gambeson and a helmet, it's probably not your Calamasil. I have no idea. I really don't know.
Probably stingy.
But I mean, like what we're experiencing right now with like using our calibration with LARP weapons and ruining them, these guys probably already did that like 5 years ago.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's part of their history. They probably want it to be harder combat.
Yeah.
So they probably had I don't know, I'm guessing, but they probably had those LARP weapons fail over a matter of time. I mean, this is something that I've been thinking about in the short LARP life that I've had, thinking about the LARP that we want to start and the kind of level of combat. We've had weapons fail. I mean, Mike just talked about it last episode. We've had swords fail after one Beacoline.
Mm-hmm.
To where it's like it's not really built. And I brought this up in discussions before, but like different countries have different LARPs. Different countries have different LARPs that have different rules and level of engagement. These big LARP makers are making LARP weapons, if you think about it, the most marketable way, so a lot of different people can buy them, but that harder hitting group of people might be too like niche for those weapons to work. So they're going to break down, they're going to, you know what I mean? Like no one's making these really heavy duty LARP weapons because there aren't a lot of games, I guess, except for Czech LARPs. And I mean, Beacoline hits okay. They're not, I mean, no one's getting like Mondo trucked, but I've seen good hits. But it's the demand's not really there. So it's cool to see companies like this popping up with an extensive searching to be like, oh crap, like of course, like why wouldn't there be tech already? I mean, we're not inventing it, you know what I mean? Like there's already these groups that have been doing this for probably years and years.
Now I'm really curious about their shields, like how padded they are. If like some of them don't even look padded.
No, they're wood shields.
So I'm like, you're bashing people. Like, man, I want that.
But that's the other thing too. Like, if you have to wear a helmet and have to have a gambeson, I think the edges are finished. Like they either have leather or whatever. But that would suck to get hit. But I mean, that's what the padding and all that's for. I mean, again,
I'm sure they've got rules on how to bash with a wooden shield.
I think if we're doing shield bashing, which we're going to be, and we've already talked about it before, we're going to be doing padded shields at the very least. Like
there's no reason not to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's because people buy $80 helmets and then they get dumped on by Hellish pole arms.
I mean, I really kind of just want like Beacoline 2.0. I want I don't know, it advance the shield tech just a little bit more and like put a thin layer of dense foam on the front and like allow
I don't
standing place pushes.
Yes. I think they just like the commodity of being able to pump out shields pretty cheaply because they're just wood with a handle.
Yeah, you can make them look good, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I've never had like a big issue with getting foam shields made, and I think the ones that get plastic dipped and painted and stuff look great.
Yeah,
I think they last a long time too.
You can put them in people's faces. Yes, and we are going to end up talking to some people that are going to be more knowledgeable about insurance stuff. But I mean, with the way DAG has been able to run, I'm not super concerned with anybody seeing what we're trying to do. Like, oh no.
Were those waivers that we signed every event, was that even like legit? Or was
Yeah.
that like you signed a waiver? I remember
Me.
comments like, I don't know if those waivers are even like binding. But
No, they're just lucky nobody ever tried to actually, you know.
Yeah.
We kind of passed it over, but I've been staring at this question. How will you address the investment of people in their costumes, since you want them to look really good? If you want people to feel terrible after a defeat, how will you punish them? Um,
after losing, like in a battle,
I mostly want it like I almost need the question readdressed, because so I don't know if the concern is like, oh, like, is the fighting too rough for what people's costumes might be, or
oh yeah,
or if they're asking how we're going to simulate people.
they said if a character
Okay,
dies, can they reuse their costume?
so we
Oh,
talked
for
about
sure.
that. I think every episode so far, I've thrown in a little something about that victim rule, where like nobody dies unless they want to die. Your
Mm-hmm.
character can get wounded, mortally wounded, to the point of you can't fight anymore, and you might have to spend the rest of the event selling a wound or an injury. But unless you are ready to tell the story of your character dying, your character is not dead.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You can be indisposed, you can be put out, but
So, like, are you still talking?
no, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I just like it sounded like you got cut out, so I was like, what? So, if you've, I guess all LARPs are in somewhat very much like a video game, like battles you respawn and kind of things like that. And while we want to have role play be like real characters and make it feel real, you're gonna, like Mike said, you're going to like pretend you have a wound or other things. You're gonna have people help you throughout the event. But the thing is, like, you get to control when you're stop playing the game or not. You can always like choose another character next event kind of thing. Like video games and LARP are hand in hand. They're the same thing.
Well, we talked about too, like the battle's decision will like Beacoline, where the battle ends, this team won, and so it affects the way the story was going to go based on why it began to begin with. But just because you were in that battle and you died a couple times, it doesn't perma put you like, oh, that's just what happened to you and you're gone now. It's kind of like your character fought there, and as a player, you did what you could to help that outcome, but it doesn't mean that you died. You know
I
what I
think
mean?
both the actual physical violence, like Jordan said, is going to be something that they take away from it, that makes them remember that it was hard and it was difficult
Mm-hmm.
and it was scary. But I would hope, at least this is my idea for, like, if I was to lose a battle, I would hope people just role play it, that
Mm-hmm.
the battle was lost, and even if nobody's like actual player character died, the whole point of having the battle was to simulate that death happens, even if it's not specific PCs. There, like, many still died, which is
Mm-hmm.
how the battle was lost. So I would hope
Yep.
people would play along and role play and tell that story and carry that weight, for the sake of their characters, the story they're telling and what they're experiencing. That we lost something that day,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
or I lost a part of myself that day. Like, some characters might think it's their own fault. They might carry some kind of guilt, even though they survived. It's that's all going to be on the story side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to give people actual, like, real life, like, I feel like shit because I just fought in that battle with that LARP.
Yeah,
I
like
want it
take
to
your
be,
costume to Goodwill. You're done.
yeah, like, I don't feel like, all right, get out of here, making or roll a new character.
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to be the role play half. It's kind of like, I want the fighting to be genuine and real, but I want the effects. It's what I said earlier. It's like, it's not like, here's the story we want to tell, let's make the battle tell that story. It's let's have the battle, here's the story that got told.
Yep.
So react accordingly. Of course you will. but yeah, it's we can't expect people to get all these really nice kits together and put all this investment into character story and development and fit themselves into the lore that we've come up for them if it would be so easy for us to just remove them from the board.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be fair. But if they're gonna, it's like everybody gets, we've done so many different things over the years, and we've transitioned into being different characters or just being different things, doing different kits, experiencing different cultures. People get bored and people get sick of being who they are, and they're like, I'm ready to tell the story of, like Ingvar's death, and this is how it's like. So I'm ready to one of the things we thought of too with Rob was you could always put up your character's life where, like, you don't plan that my character's going to die this battle, but you can say, like, in this battle, like, if I die, that's going to be the story of how I die. And it's like, that might change the entire way you fight that battle.
Yeah.
That might change your entire outlook on what you're doing in the game that day. And if you survive, that's going to feel so close to real survival that it's like, how could you not react accordingly?
Yeah.
And continue to tell that story even after the battle's over.
And I mean, what a great opportunity for role play too. I mean, especially if you're really role playing it up and this is it. Like, what a treat for the other players to see, like, whoa, this dude's dying, and, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think the way I think of it is, like, if it, depending on the battle it is, because I'm blanking on Beakoline right now, but we used to do, like, resurrection battles where, like, your team would win based on, at the end of a time limit, how many times there were respawns, and it would kind of, like, calculate your casualties, and then the team with the lower respawns won. So it's almost like when you die in the battle and you go to respawn, you look like you're fighting as you, but to the other team you're just kind of like you're just like a reinforcement at that point.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're a number.
You're just a body on the field. So it's kind of like a weird, like, it's you, but it's not. I don't know. It's not this permanent. What's up, Frank? I don't know if it's my dad or my brother, but it's probably my dad.
What's up, Frank?
What's up, Frank?
I would love to do things like that where it's like we have NPCs built up. That's the thing, too, is that I don't want to be in the business of killing NPCs every time, but people, like, that could be a thing. It's like, even though Ingvar might not die as the result of a battle being lost, Ingvar could be captured. And that could change the entire course of what do the Druzhina have to do from this point on.
Yep.
Do the Druzhina have to go negotiate with his captors? Do they have to plan some sort of rescue? Do they have to come up with a ransom? Like, there's so much more you can do, I think, with PCs and even NPCs, or playmakers, as we're probably going to end up calling them. Surviving something and experiencing a different negative outcome than just like, now they're dead.
Yep.
Even though the stories of characters dying are definitely going to get told, that's going to happen, because I want that way to happen. I want to have people grow close to a character, or grow fond of a character, or enjoy their time either fighting against or with that character. And when they're gone, I want people to be able to role play that loss, and I want people to be able to tell stories of a dear friend that they used to fight alongside with. They might even be telling it to the person that played that character. There's a new character now. Because I just want everything to matter so much more than just like, I showed up to the fight and I fought and I respawned a bunch and we won, and we showed up again a month later at the other weekend event and we fought a bunch and respawned and we lost.
Yeah.
Well,
I want it all to work towards something and build towards something.
It's kind of what I said, I think maybe last episode, how, like, when people are looking in America, they're looking at LARP from the outside, they see battle. And in a way, without dumping, to me, that's kind of like, it's a it's a lack of it's a point of view that has a lack of experience in such a moment where a bunch of people just fought to the death. You see it as a spectator, like, wow, I've never been there, so like I don't get the context of what's going on here, and it's primarily entertainment for me. So it's kind of like mature storytelling to be like, really put yourself in the place of how dreadful and terrible it would be. I mean, seasoned warriors, whatever, like you're used to it, I guess. But I still feel like even in our real life, like people in the military and people that have been on multiple tours, like that is some stressful, awful stuff. And I mean, I'm not telling anybody to like role play like having like a like real trauma or anything, but I guess to put yourself to a point where it's like being the murder hobo in like a D&D game where you're like, I'm just going to kill every NPC. Like, not only does that wreck the game, but it's from an immature storytelling point of
It's
view.
like not interesting.
No, it's not.
You know.
And you look like a psycho.
Yeah,
exactly.
For like
Tom just blasting everybody with magic and dark.
I'm like,
Souls.
do I need an item from this guy? Nope.
I want his clothes.
Yeah.
I love the Fable games for you gamers out there. Like if you remember the Fable games, you could take a path, and if you didn't like it, what you chose to do, you just turn the game off, you didn't save, and you go back and you do it again. That's kind of like a LARP event because you're role playing, you're interacting with NPCs or with missions, with battles, and like it doesn't like every decision doesn't have to matter. And sometimes you'll like go to an event that you just didn't like, and so like, it doesn't mean your character needs to die but you get to enjoy that game because it's like that save that you're on. You know what I mean? I love that game.
Even if something doesn't happen at an event, like anything exciting or like traumatic or
slice of life is okay too.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't know. Like sometimes I worry that the way we're trying to convey our vision is like people are like, man, so they want the fighting to be miserable and they want people to be okay with doing nothing all weekend if that's how it goes.
I mean, it is very demanding of the player, but that's the culture that I would like to see.
It is just it's like it's something that we see enough people doing elsewhere, and we see enough people that are in the States that are striving for a similar thing. But yeah, it's like, dude, so many of my favorite memories from even going to RAG, where the last couple ones we went to, we barely had fun, but when we would make a bunch of food and put our best outfits on and get hammered in camp together, like we felt like we were who our characters were supposed to be. And that had nothing to do with fighting or even hanging out with anybody else. Like it was just, we were just able to sink into the magic. Like it was a magic moment that lasted all night. It was great.
And here's the other thing. Like if you have an event where everyone's there and you all have this like notion that like you can role play as much as you want to, but also like the more you put into it, the better for everyone. The thing is like when you're there, everyone's going to be in their camps, they're doing things, having fun, having parties, doing crafting, doing medieval things. Like when you're saying like this is a chance to role play, you're going to get people are going to do more fun things, like pick up hobbies, like weaving, you know, and like that's going to make the whole world cooler. Like a blacksmith can set up during an event. And so it's just like, that's what I want, you know?
Yeah, I want people that don't even think about fighting to be able to show up to our game and not only feel like they have something to do the whole time, but feel like they matter and feel like there's reasons for people
I want the
to
Monty
interact
Python. Yeah, I want the Monty Python peasants just moving dirt for no reason. Like,
yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? Like in the
people
mud.
Want to do that.
King of the Who, but like, you know, just people who, yeah, if they want to have fun and role play and make the world like more immersive, like, all right, that sounds fun.
That lends to too is that my whole philosophy since the first conversation we had about like making a game was that when I see people that are doing things just for the like, even if they're not purposely doing it just for the sake of making the game seem alive and being something in the background for people to just acknowledge is there and kind of like make them forget about the real world. Like I want to reward people that do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I see somebody who's just like, oh, I'm going to play a beggar that sits in rags in the street and begs for coin. And if I see somebody literally sit there for 8 hours, like doing that just so that they could be like a piece of scenery, essentially, I'm gonna be like, hey, like here's a bunch of our in-game currency. Like you did great.
Yeah.
Like thank you for just being something. Because there's so
Well,
many people that just show up to these and
mhm.
they'll wear an outfit, but all they're doing is chit chatting about, I don't know, like Overwatch or something with people at the event, or they're talking about their vape mod or something. Like you did something selfless by just being something at the
Yeah.
game.
But I can like see you, Mike, in like your like awesome outfits, walking at night, drunk or whatever you want to do, and there's that beggar there at night, and he's still doing it for fun, and you're just remaining character like a movie scene and flip him a coin and keep walking. But like somebody saw that and they're like, "Wow, that was so cool! It looked like real. Like it looked like these guys are all like real medieval people, you know."
Yeah.
And like when people are doing it, more people wanted to do it, you know.
Well, and it's a thing too. Like we gain all these expectations and wants from things that we've seen, like movies or whatever. So that's another big part of LARP is the spectating as someone seeing two people that don't even see you doing something. Like when you do that, you are providing so much atmosphere and immersion for people, even if you don't even know you're being watched, because that's not why you're doing it, because you get to role play as this character, you get to be an actor and actually like choose who that person is. So that's exciting. But I don't know, there's so many layers to it. I mean, we had some young kid walk up to us. I don't know if it was I think it was the first year we went to Picoline, and walked up and kind of was just like, it was me, you, and Pecco. And he was like, "You guys look great. Like, thank you so much for doing this." I mean, that wasn't in character, but the appreciation, we were just like, "Cool." Like, it was sweet, you know?
Like,
but we
I
put
was
our
like,
time
shit, we
into our
didn't even
kids.
we didn't even do anything yet.
Yeah.
Like that was like 20 minutes after we guarded up for the first time. We were just walking
And sweaty. But yeah.
but
Yeah.
I really want to just push for people to always be on, like always be like, pretty much like you show up to the event and you get your kid on, and I want to do the thing like Biko does where it's like, at this time blast off a firework or something, it's game on, and it's on until this time on Sunday or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you need to do something that's non-decorum or real life, like go somewhere and take care of it.
There should be designated areas for that.
Yeah.
Or like timeout spots.
We are hitting that 90-minute mark. If you guys want to start winding down, if you want to take any last minute questions or scroll through chat and see if there's anything we missed.
Is anyone just dying to ask us something?
Yeah, I know we kind of went all over the place. The main focus today was the firearms, but we only have so much info on that. We are very excited about them, but literally like today we learned things that we decided to put on the show.
We'll have follow up, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, these always just kind of turn into us talking, so you know, I'm not gonna this isn't the gun episode anymore, so they don't get to know.
Yeah. And we got a lot of good questions about just like what exactly you guys even trying to do, or like what do you even like want out of the game. But we aren't personally, most of it's in our heads, but when we have discussed, we're not the only people doing this. We're part of an entire like group of 8 to 10 people that are meeting every once in a while on Discord to do this. And the guy that keeps a lot of notes is my buddy Rob, and he hasn't been on the show yet. But he definitely will at some point. He's a very dear friend to all of us, and he is kind of the brainchild of so much cool stuff that has happened with me in LARPing. Like he's the one that comes up with like, let's do this like secret camp in the woods at Olympics where we have these tournaments or all this other stuff. And he's the one that's kind of driving a lot of things and keeping a lot of the notes and stuff. So at some point when he's on the show, we'll probably have something more developed to talk about as far as like a game, because he's kind of like the core. The whole core of that.
Plus, I mean, we've kept things secret. No one talk about it because it's basically like when it's time, when it's perceivable that it's time to come out with those things. I mean, we have to have his consent, and it would probably be good for him to be here while that happens. And for anybody that missed the firearms portion, I do believe, I don't know what platform you're on, but Facebook does automatically upload this episode. And then on top of that, I upload the videos every Sunday night. So if it's not available tonight, it'll be available tomorrow.
On YouTube.
And if you find that you have any questions that weren't answered, hit us up on all of our social media. The thedruzhinacast is where we're everywhere, basically.
On everything. Yeah.
Yep.
Instagram, Facebook, YubTub. We're not going to bother with Twitter. I don't even bother with Twitter in real life. It's useless.
No, I don't know how to use it.
But yeah, so you guys want to try to wrap it up?
Sure. Answer one vital question in the chat. To Pecco, it's definitely P.
Yeah, it's always been P, bud. Always has been. That's what you. Always has been, bud.
All right, guys. Well, I guess that's it for us. We're still going to always try to do Sundays, 7 p.m. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Thanks
See
so
ya.
much.